Hi everyone, and welcome to this special broadcast of the Financial Insight Show. This is part of the CEO series where, Financial Insight gets to sit down with some of the business leaders and thought leaders that we have. And today we have a special guest in the Union Gold chairperson, Mr. Mark O'Donnell. Mark, welcome to the FIZ show.
Thank you. Hi, Mwelwa. How are you doing?
Great. Mark, I know this is our second interview in as many days, but we at Financial Insight, pride ourselves for sitting down with business leaders to just get, insights in terms of their businesses. We understand that Union Gold has obviously been in Zambia for many years, but would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the work that Union Gold is doing so that a lot of people get to know about, the great work that you're doing?
Thank you. And you're doing great work as well.
We're trying under the circumstances.
Don't underestimate yourself either.
We're trying.
So, yes, I was born in Zambia, and I've been in business for about 40 years in Zambia.
Wow.
Union Gold is a family business, and we've been in business a long time. It's a multifaceted business. We have investments in tourism, construction, a little bit of manufacturing, a little bit of property. So we're a multifaceted business. We employ about 1,500 people across the country.
That's amazing.
And yes, we're a private company that has seen quite a lot over the years.
I can imagine, and seeing quite a lot. I think a lot of people, whenever they hear Mark O'Donnell, they're thinking, okay, property. How important has going into property been for you as a business? And I know that for some of us, we think of Protea, we think of arcades, for example. But over the years, what have you seen from your perspective in terms of how the landscape of property has changed?
Look, we started business in the 1980s when it was a very socialist country, and the space in which private business could operate was very limited because most of the businesses were state-owned enterprises. And then in the 1990s, there was liberalization. So in the process of that, our business changed. We started doing a lot of manufacturing. We weren't into property in those days. But as the policy and the environment changed, we had to adapt and adopt, and we had to move forward. So, when you're in business, you have to face realities. If something's not working, you have to change. So we had to change some of the things we were doing and look for new opportunities. So we were fortunate to get in at the beginning in, for example, with properties. That gave us an opportunity to do something new. We were also very involved in construction through a group company called Velos that's been in business a long time as well. And we've been able to change some of the things we're doing. We only went into hospitality in the late 1990s, 2000, with a very small investment, but we've grown that investment over the years into a hotel chain under the brands Protea, Ciela, to where we are today. So that's a tourism investment that we have. And none of this would be possible, Mwelwa, without an incredible team of people that work with us. And it's all about people. People come to me and they talk about, what you attribute your success to, and it's very simple. It's people, people, and people.
Absolutely.
You get the right people in the right position with the right skill sets, and you can achieve incredible results.
Absolutely. And when you speak about people, and this is one of the side conversations that we actually had, I think Zambia right now is at a very interesting moment where, the need for skills is very, very important. Are you able to just tell us a bit about how you've seen the landscape in terms of being able to source skills in Zambia and how that connects to you growing your businesses?
So just before we talk about skills, let's talk about the changing demographics. We have a country with 20 million people.
Right.
I think half of the population is below the age of 18 or
Correct,
something
yes.
like
A very young population.
It's a very, very young population, and this has challenges and it also has opportunities. The population is set to double by 2050, so it's going to go up to 40 million. Now, in order to run a country with 40 million people, you need a huge range of infrastructure, services, skill sets, and so on. And are we developing these skill sets at the pace that we need to be developing them in order to cater for the future opportunities? And in my view, we are not doing that fast enough.
Right.
We've had the past decade where education completely collapsed.
Correct.
And it's unfortunate for people in that decade that they weren't given the gift of education that they should have been given to enable them to have the skills that they need to go forward. So a lot of measures now need to be taken to first of all fix the problem so that the next generation coming forward has the adequate educational background or basis to go on further. And secondly, to figure out how are we going to develop the immediate skills we need. Business has to have access to skills. You cannot grow businesses without access to skills.
Correct.
And this is what we have to face up to. How do we begin to deal with this problem? I don't think it's any secret in the business world that certain skill sets are really, really difficult to come by. And the sad thing is that because of the age of the internet and electronic era, a lot of jobs have actually been offshored, and this is very disappointing.
Right.
Many jobs have been offshored to South Africa, to Mauritius, to Dubai, to India, because utilizing the technology that we have today, you can offshore certain jobs. So thousands of skilled jobs have been offshored. It's very unfortunate that people in Zambia are paying for those jobs to be offshore. And having those jobs offshore actually denies Zambians access to those kind of jobs.
Correct.
So we need to see policies that begin to onshore those jobs again, bring those jobs back to Zambia with the skills to be able to carry on and start rebuilding the skills that we need to run our businesses. When I started in business in the 1980s, it was always a pleasure to recruit people because so many people would come forward with really good qualifications and capabilities. But we just don't see that today, Mwelwa. It's just, I think education is the biggest thing that's going to hold us back as we go forward.
Absolutely. And just to move away from the education side, Mark, one of the things that Financial Insight we've observed is that you've been a huge advocate of dialogue with government. And I think over the years we've seen you visibly, discussing, sitting down with government. Would like to just get your perspective how that relationship, private sector and government's relationship, has evolved over the years, and where are we now, and where do you see opportunities for further discourse and growth for the country?
Well, first of all, if there's no dialogue, then there's no future.
Absolutely.
And we have to have dialogue. And while we might not always agree, it's essential that we debate and understand everybody's point of view and try and figure out the answers that we need. We are all in this together. It's not as though it is us and them. Unfortunately, in the past 10 years, it's very much been us and them. And the private sector has been completely sidelined, and it's as though they've had no opinion and they have nothing to contribute. And the reality is exactly the opposite. It is the private sector, through their investments and mobilization of capital, that is going to drive this country forward. And once we really and truly embrace that, we'll begin to see some real progress. And it is essential that we dialogue and detail the constraints that hold back investment, that hold back job creation, that hold back Zambians obtaining prosperity. It's essential we dialogue, and it's essential we listen to each other. It's not just to say we talked and then we did what we wanted. No, it's essential that we share these ideas, take these ideas on board from both sides, because all parties have something to contribute. And it's essential we understand them and look for the best way forward. Absolutely. And it is very, very possible. Zambia is a very, very wealthy country. I mean, we have minerals, we have land, we have sunshine, we have water. We should not be in this mess that we find ourselves in today. And it is just careless government policies of the past that have brought us to this point where we are. I can assure you, Mwelwa, we should not be here. And we will not be here if we listen to each other and start taking the necessary actions to fix these problems.
Absolutely. And, you know, just on that same point, and you bring out very, very strong points about private sector's involvement so far. How do you see that relationship evolving over the next, you know, coming months to years? Because obviously we now have, you know, a government that is seemingly progressive, that is open to discussion, but then there are certain aspects that are still missing that could potentially be improved. How would you say that those relations could be better improved?
So the European government has been very clear about this. They have clearly stated that the private sector is the engine of growth. Through our various business forum, we do have many interactions with government, many very good interactions with government. I think the challenge we face today is one of implementation. A lot of things need to be done to remove the rigidities from the system. This involves changing laws, changing policies. And unfortunately, the administration, and that's the civil service and its statutory bodies, unfortunately, there seems to be a roadblock in that area. They are not productive, they are not producing the results that they need to be producing to enable the private sector to be more, let's say, nimble and aggressive in the investments that they make. So we sit here waiting for change to happen, right. Change that is agreed upon, but is not being implemented. And I think this is, our elected leaders need to focus on this and ensure that their administration is able to deliver to their requirements and to our requirements. At the end of the day, the civil service is there to facilitate, not to hinder. And what we're seeing is a situation where change is taking place far too slowly. We agree something, we expect maybe 1 or 2 weeks actions to be taken. 6 months later, we still wait for actions. They're not happening.
Yes, and so it's essentially the need, need for urgency. Moving along now, in terms of Zambia's comparative, advantage. Recently, Financial Insight was part of, the the 2024 budget presentations, and one of the government officials had indicated that, Zambia had lagged behind, especially in terms of its, positioning on the copper production side of things. Because of the latency in, certain things being implemented, how do you see that impacting, for example, the real estate sector, going forward? Because obviously there's Zambia is now being positioned as a country, a destination for investment. But if, like you've indicated, some of those issues are not addressed, we will lag behind.
Exactly what you say is what I've also mentioned. It's the ability to deliver a platform that allows business to expand and grow. So, for example, in the mining sector, you look at what's happening in the DRC, where they've freed up mining and made mining a credible investment. I think a few years back, DRC used to only produce half the amount of copper we produced. Today, we produce 800,000 tons. They're doing something like 2.2 million tons. All these trucks you see on the road are all coming from our southern borders, going to DRC, carrying copper from DRC to markets and taking goods into the DRC. Most of that traffic is DRC bound. And this is what happens when you free things up and you allow them to take place. You get a massive increase in the rate of economic activity, as we're seeing with the DRC. The amount of people coming over from the DRC to trade in Zambia, to buy goods and services from Zambia, is increasing at an exponential rate. Why? Because their economy is rapidly expanding, whereas our economy is very stagnant. So in terms of change, I'm very involved in tourism through our hotels, and we advocate for change in the tourism sector. Tourism could be $1 billion a year industry. if we can remove the rigidities. Now, tourism is dependent on so many factors. It's not just being dealt with through the Ministry of Tourism. It's about transport, it's about immigration, it's about foreigners coming into the country, it's about how they travel around on the roads. And so tourism requires many changes in many ministries in order to get it to become the industry that it is capable of becoming. And can it reach $1 billion? In my opinion, very easily, if we do the things that we need to do. When you look at Zambia, Zambia is 750,000 square kilometers. About 250,000 square kilometers is dedicated to wildlife resource and management and forests. So that's a third of the country. It's a massive area. It's an area bigger than the entire United Kingdom. So we have this incredible resource in Zambia that A, we need to look after, and B, we need to start using to generate revenue for the people of Zambia. And this can only happen when we get the policies right, we implement those policies, and we can get the investments to start coming in. Do we have the attractions? Of course we have the attractions. Victoria Falls, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world.
Absolutely.
Millions and millions of people around the world would like to see that. The Luangwa, the Lower Zambezi, the Kafue National Park, Liua National Park. These are just incredible resources to use to attract visitors. And why do visitors want to come to Zambia? Number one, Zambia is a friendly, peaceful country. A visitor will not go to a country that is not peaceful and safe. Number two, visitors want to come and experience culture. They want to come and see Zambian culture. They want to come and see these attractions. So all we have to do is start marketing this.
Correct.
Again, for the last 10 years, there's been almost no marketing of Zambia. You go into the key source markets, the wealthy key source markets, and you say, how about a holiday in Zambia? Where's Zambia? Yep. And we've done nothing to sell ourselves. So and these are the changes I talk about. We need to start putting the resources, like for example in the ZTA, go out there and market the country, get people interested and wanting to know more about Zambia. Look at what Rwanda did. They sponsored a football team in the UK and they put on their shirt, Visit Rwanda.
Yes.
That cost them quite a lot of money to do that. But it's worth something like $500 million a year of forex income to Rwanda just because they wrote Visit Rwanda and they told the world that they were there. And this is the kind of thing that we need to do in Zambia, put ourselves on the map and start opening up and having programs that get tourism numbers up. Because tourism should be one of the main pillars of the economy. It's an industry that only brings money in and leaves money here. It's a type of industry that people all over the country can benefit from. You get this self-drive market that if we can get rid of roadblocks and police harassment on the road, and we can encourage the self-drive market, these are the people that will go to Mwinilunga and the Northern Circuit and the Western Province, and as they go along the way they will spend money and bring benefit to communities in those areas. So these are the kind of things that we need to be doing. We need to change to facilitate them. Much work is being done behind the scenes with the Tourism Council and the various ministries to make this happen. And as I've said previously, we agree. Now it's a question of implementing, and that's where the challenge lies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mark, just one final question. From where you're sitting, head of Union Gold, how do you see the next year or two looking in terms of the property sector? How do you see it growing if things continue the way they are, if some of the issues that you've brought up are not addressed?
The property sector will grow rapidly if the GDP growth rate in the country will accelerate. And it is very important. Most of the property in Zambia is owned by Zambians themselves. If it's not the house they live in, many Zambians have built another second or third or fourth house that they want to rent out and use that as an income for themselves, including shopping malls and warehousing and so on. At the moment, there's a lot of vacant property around, particularly in Lusaka, where there's a lot of oversupply. But it's with GDP growth that property will, two things will happen. That property will fill up and prices are likely to begin to rise. As soon as prices begin to rise, new investment opportunities will take place in the property field. But it's really essential that we get the GDP of the country to grow at 4.7%. To be honest, you know, when you take into account the population growth rate, really 2%. None of this is going to happen very quickly. Yet the tragedy is, if we took away rigidities, the private sector is in a pretty healthy state compared to the government sector. The government is the sector that has the debt burden and the debt restructuring and all those challenges to go with it. The private sector is not so much affected by that. The private sector has the ability to mobilize capital and invest that capital. But we can't do that as long as the rigidities are in place. So let's get rid of the rigidities. Let's open it up so that we can invest that. And then we can begin to create thousands of new jobs. And of course, while we might not have all the necessary skill sets, we are urging government to give us access to skills, but also companies are responsible as well. Responsible companies also take care of training needs within their companies. You know, so there are ways to move this forward, and we just got to be open to it. And you know, instead of being a government, well, not so much a government, but a civil service or a statutory body that says no to everything, what we've got to start hearing from government is, yes, we can. We've got to start believing in ourselves. We've got to start believing that we can do this. Yes, we can. Instead of no, we can't, and then all this nonsense of corruption and I want something under the table and give me something. You know, that's all got to come to an end.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. Now, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mark O'Donnell, thank you so much for joining us on this special episode. We look forward to engaging with you. We always do try to visit our partners and business associates every 6 months. So hopefully you can give us another interview, and maybe the landscape would be slightly different, so we can talk about something exciting.
Thank you, Mwelwa. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and let's get this yes we can attitude going.
Yes we can. Yes we can. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.